Hi there, welcome to my YouTube channel Dhyani classes. If you are watching my video for the first time, do subscribe my channel, hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever new video will be uploaded. So in today's video we will cover the first part of the chapter Deep Water, written by William Douglas from class 12 CBSE. So let's get started. Let's talk about the author. William Douglas was born in Maine, Minnesota. After graduating with a Bachelor of Arts in English and Economics, he spent 2 years teaching high school in Yakima. However, he got tired of this and decided to pursue a legal career. He met Franklin D. Roosevelt at Yale and became an advisor and friend to the president. Douglas was a leading advocate of individual rights. He retired in 1975 with a term lasting 36 years and remained the longest serving justice in the history of the court. The following excerpt is taken from Of Man and Mountains by William O. Douglas. It reveals how, as a young boy, William Douglas nearly drowned in a swimming pool. In this essay, he talks about his fear of water and thereafter how he finally overcame it, and shares his personal experience of misadventure and what strategy he used to follow. So let's notice these words and expressions in the text, infer their meaning from the context. Treacherous means dangerous, misadventures mean misfortune or accidents, subdue my pride means overcome the pride, bob to the surface like a cork means come back to the surface, flail at the surface means swing your arm on the top of the water, curtain of life fell means end of the life. Fishing for landlocked salmon means species of fish. Let's begin with the first line of the chapter now. It had happened when I was 10 or 11 years old. So here author is saying that it had happened when I was 10 or 11 years old. That means something had happened with him when he was 10 or 11 years old. And further he is saying, I had decided to learn to swim. So when he was 10 or 11 years old, he wanted to learn swim. There was a pool at YMCA in Yakima that offered exactly the opportunity. So here he wanted to learn swim, and then he approached a swimming pool named YMCA in Yakima that offered exactly the opportunity. That means that was the place, or that was the exact place where he thought he would learn to swim. The Yakima River was treacherous. Mother continually warned against it. It kept fresh in my mind the details of each drowning in the water. So here he is saying that there was a Yakima river also, but it was very treacherous. That means it was very dangerous to swim, and his mother continually warned against. That means his mother used to warn him that not to go to the Yakima river for swimming because it was very dangerous, and kept fresh in my mind the details of each drowning in the river. That means every time she used to remind him a number of each drowning. That means each accident. So in this way his mother did not allow him to go to the river Yakima. Further he says, but the YMCA pool was safe. So here he says that YMCA swimming pool was safe, far better than the Yakima river. It was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, and while it was 9 feet deep at the other, the drop was gradual. So here he is telling about the dimension of the pool and says it was only 2 or 3 feet deep at shallow end. So what do you mean by shallow end? That means one side of the pool or river where things are safer and not become too deeply involved in something that could have dangerous. And while it was 9 feet deep at the other, that means another side of the swimming pool was 9 feet and the drop was gradual. That means water was moving very slow. I got a pair of water wings and went to the pool. So here, in order to learn swim, he was all set and wanted to learn swim. So he got a pair of water wings. That means he bought a pair of water wings and he wore water wings and went towards the swimming pool. I hated to walk naked into it and show my skinny legs. Here he is talking about his physical appearance, that his physical appearance was so weak and he had skinny legs at that time. That means he was very thin and he hated to walk naked into it. That means he was feeling very shy while walking because he put off all his clothes inside the locker room. But I subdued my pride and did it. But later on he subdued my pride. That means he thought about it and overcame from the depressed mood and low confidence, as he was feeling very shy because he had skinny legs, and did it. That means again he started walking towards the swimming pool very confidently. From the beginning, however, I had an aversion to the water when I was in it. So here he is saying that from the beginning he had an aversion. That means aquaphobia. Aquaphobia refers to a fear of water, and he had a fear of water when he was in it, and he did not like to go into the water because he had an aversion to the water. This started when I was 3 or 4 years old and my father took me to the beach in California. So here he is describing an incident when he was 3 or 4 years old and father took me to the beach in California. That means his father took him to the beach in California, and from that point he had an aversion to the water. And further he says, he and I stood together in the surf. I hung on to him, yet the waves knocked me down and swept over me. So here he is saying that both he and his father stood together in the surf. That means both of them were standing on the beach and I hung on to him. Suddenly a huge wave knocked me down and swept over me. That means waves came and I fell down and water swept over me. I was buried in water. My breath was gone. So here the writer is saying that I was completely covered with water as water pushed me down and my breath was gone. That means he could not breathe properly because waves knocked him down and he was buried in the water. I was frightened, father laughed, but there was terror in my heart at the overpowering force of the waves. So here his father was laughing to see him because he was frightened and says, I was not able to breathe. But his father thought the boy is just playing in the water, but there was terror in my heart at the overpowering force of the waves. So he became very frightened because the strong force of waves knocked him down and he was not able to breathe properly. So in this way, the accident had happened to him when he was as a kid. My introduction to the YMCA swimming pool revived unpleasant memories and stirred childish fears. So here the author is saying that my introduction at the YMCA swimming pool, that means the first time when he arrived at the YMCA swimming pool, revived unpleasant memories. That means again he started remembering that unpleasant experience and stirred childish fears. That means the incident which had happened with him in California when he was 2 and 3 years old, and that fear started coming in his mind and revived those unpleasant memories when he fell into the water when he came to the YMCA pool. But in a little while I gathered confidence. So here he is saying that he was certain that he will learn swimming, and then he gathered confidence. And further he says, I paddled with my new water wings, watching the other boys and trying to learn by aping them. So finally he accelerated his confidence and came to the swimming pool and started watching the other boy as well and trying to learn by aping them. So he wore his new water wings and then he started following other boys and trying to learn by copying them, that how they are swimming. I did this 2 or 3 times on a different days and was just beginning to feel at ease in the water when the misadventure happened. So here the writer is saying that despite a fear of water, he gained confidence and he started learning to swim at the YMCA pool. So first 3 days he only analyzed how other boys were doing, and in the same way he was also trying to swim. And after 3 days of practice he was feeling ease in the water when the misadventure happened. That means he experienced another bad misadventure when he was trying to overcome the fear of water. I went to the pool when no one else was there. So here he is telling the brief story that what had happened with him and when misadventure happened with him, and said, I went to the pool when no one else was there. That means one day he went to the swimming pool and nobody was there and he was alone there. The place was quiet, the water was still, and the tiled bottom was as white, as clean as bathtub. So here he says it was calm and the water was also still and the tiled bottom was as white, as clean as bathtub. That means he could see the water neat and clean, and bottom of the pool was very visible as bathtub, and there was no movement in water and nobody was there inside the pool at that time. I was timid about going in alone, so I sat on the side of the pool to wait for others. So here he is saying that as he was feeling very frightened and shy to jump into the swimming pool, and further he says I sat on the side of the pool to wait for others. So here, as he was feeling shy to go alone in the water, so he decided to wait for others because he used to copy others. Further, he is saying, I had not been there long when in came a big bruiser of a boy, probably 18 years old. So as he had been waiting for others for some time, so at the same time a big bruiser of a boy, that means very rough and tough boy, came, and he was nearly 18 years old. He had thick hair on his chest. He was a beautiful physical specimen with legs and arms that showed rippling muscles. So here he says that he was a beautiful physical specimen. That means he had a very strong muscles, like his arm and legs were very strong, and that showed rippling muscles. That means his physical appearance showing that he can use his strong body to swim well, and he looks like a very good swimmer, and he had a thick hair on his chest along with a beautiful physical appearance. He yelled, "Hi Skinny, how would you like to be ducked?" So when a big bruiser of a boy came and looked at the writer, and he shouted at him and said, "Hi Skinny." That means he called him as a thin and said, "How would you like to be ducked?" That means how would you like to dive into the water? And further he says, with what he picked me up and tossed me into the deep end. So the big bruiser of a boy who called the narrator Skinny and picked him up and threw him into the deep end. That means the deep end or deep side of the water. I landed in a sitting position, swallowed water, and went at once to the bottom. So here when he threw the narrator into the water, he landed in a sitting position because the narrator was not ready to jump into the water, and then he reached the bottom of the pool because at that moment he was not able to swim properly. I was frightened, but not yet frightened out of my wits. So here he is saying that I was frightened because the big bruiser of a boy threw him into the water suddenly, but not yet frightened out of my wits. That means still fear of water was out of his mind and he was able to think come out from the water. Further he is saying, on the way down I planned, when my feet hit the bottom, I would make a big jump, come to the surface, lie flat on it, and paddle to the edge of the pool. So here the narrator is saying that on the way down I planned. That means as he was moving down towards the bottom, he had a plan in his mind that when my feet hit the bottom, I would make a big jump and come to the surface, lie flat on it, and paddle to the edge of the pool. So he made a plan that when my feet will touch the bottom of the pool, I will hit the bottom and make a big jump to come out from the water, and when I will come out the surface, I will lie flat on it and will use my hands and legs and come to the border of the pool and then come out from the pool. It seemed a long way down. Those 9 feet were more likely 90, and before I touched the bottom, my lungs were ready to burst. So here the narrator is saying that it seemed a long way down. That means when he was moving down inside the deep water, he felt those 9 feet were more likely 90, and says, before I touched the bottom, my lungs were ready to burst. That means he is saying before I reach the bottom of the pool and jump up, he felt his lungs were full of water and ready to blast. I imagined I would bob to the surface like a cork. So here while making a big jump, he thought by hitting bottom of the pool that he would come to the surface like a cork. So what do you mean by cork? A cork is a bottle stopper made of similar material. And further he says, instead I came up slowly. That means his plan did not work at all, and his upward jump towards the surface of the pool was very slow. I opened my eyes and saw nothing but water that had dirty yellow tinge to it. I grew panically. So here he opened his eyes when he was inside the water, and he could see water everywhere and water that had dirty yellow tinge to it. That means he saw the water was yellow in color, and he started getting frightened because whatever plan he made did not work at all. I reached up as if to grab a rope and my hands clutched only at water. So when he started coming up from the deep water or from the deep end, he thought once he will reach the top, he will grab some rope and get hold of that rope, which would help him to reach to the edge of the pool. But says, but my hands clutched only at water. That means he could catch only water, not a rope. I was suffocating. I tried to yell, but no sound came out. So here once again he lost hope, and he was not able to grab a rope. Then he started suffocating because his mouth was full of water, and he tried to scream or shout for help, but he was not able to shout because he was losing his breath. So yell means shout or scream. So this is the end of the first part of the chapter, deep water. Let's look at the second part of the chapter in my next video. For more informative videos, do subscribe my channel. Hit the bell icon so they get notified whenever new video will be uploaded. So thank you so much for watching once again. Stay safe, stay healthy.